Grayson Whitmore, tech billionaire philanthropist, the man San Francisco magazine called Silicon Valley's most eligible bachelor, stood frozen in his $7 million penthouse as every screen in the room blazed a life simultaneously. His face, her face, their faces, security footage he didn't know existed, bank statements that shouldn't have been accessible, text messages he deleted months ago, now projected in 4K resolution across the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. And in the center of it all, one sentence burning in red letters. Did you really think I was just your pretty little wife? 48 hours earlier, he'd handed her divorce papers on Valentine's Day. Now, his empire was burning and nobody, not even him, knew who Delilah Crane really was. But before we get there, let me ask you something. Have you ever loved someone so completely that you rewired your entire existence for them? Changed careers, moved cities, became someone new, and then discovered it was all a lie? Drop a comment if you've ever been betrayed by the person you trusted most, because what Delilah did next will either make you cheer or question everything you believe about love and revenge. Hit that like button if you're ready for a story that'll make your jaw drop, and subscribe because this story is going to blow your mind even more. Now, let's rewind to where this really started. Delilah Crane sat in the breakfast nook of their Pacific Heights home, watching fog roll across the bay through windows that cost more than her childhood house in Bakersfield. Her hands trembled slightly as she adjusted the collar of the silk blouse she'd ironed that morning. Valentine's Day, their 5th anniversary, the day she'd circled in red on 3 different calendars. She'd made his favorite breakfast. Eggs Benedict with smoked salmon, the expensive kind from that boutique shop in Sausalito. Coffee from beans she'd order from Costa Rica, because he'd mentioned once, just once, 2 years ago, that he missed the coffee from his college trip there. That's what love looked like to Delilah. Remembering, noticing, caring about the small things. The front door opened at 7:47 a.m., exactly on schedule. Grayson's Ferragamo loafers clicked against hardwood as he entered. Phone already pressed his ear, already somewhere else entirely. Tell the board we're not negotiating below $850 million. If Ashford Tech can't meet our terms, he paused, finally noticing her. His eyes, those gray-blue eyes she'd once written terrible poetry about, skimmed over the breakfast spread with the same enthusiasm you'd give a parking ticket. Yeah, hold on. He lowered the phone. D, I can't do breakfast today. Conference call with Tokyo in 20 minutes. It's Valentine's Day, she said quietly. Right. Yeah. We'll do dinner. Somewhere nice. Have Portia make a reservation. Portia was his assistant, a woman whose voice Delilah heard more often than her own mother's. I already made reservations. At Quince, for 7:30. Something flickered across his face. Annoyance? Guilt? It vanished too quickly to identify. Perfect. Listen, I need to grab some files from the study. Don't wait up if I'm running late from the office. He was already walking away. Grayson? He turned impatient. I love you. The words hung in the air like smoke. He smiled, that practice smile he used in board meetings and charity galas, and said, Love you too, babe. 3 words. Automatic. Meaningless. The study door closed. Delilah stared at the untouched breakfast, at the orchid she'd arranged, at the small gift box containing the vintage cufflinks she'd hunted down from an estate sale in Napa because they matched his grandfather's set. Her phone buzzed. A text from Harper, her best friend since college. Happy V-Day. Tell me Grayson's doing something ridiculously romantic. Delilah typed back, he's perfect. Dinner at Quince tonight. The lie came easily. Practice made perfect. What Harper didn't know, what nobody knew, was that Delilah Crane had paused her career in cybersecurity consulting 3 years ago. Not quit, paused, because Grayson had needed someone to manage his home office during a critical expansion phase, because his previous assistant quit unexpectedly, because he'd looked at her with those eyes and said, just temporarily, D, 6 months tops. I need someone I can actually trust. 6 months became a year. A year became 3. Her contracts dried up. Her professional network moved on. Her LinkedIn profile gathered digital dust while she organized his dry cleaning and remembered his mother's gluten allergy and scheduled his dental appointments. She told herself it was love, investment, partnership. The study door opened again. Grayson emerged holding his briefcase, jacket slung over one arm. But there was something different in his expression now. Something that made Delilah's stomach drop before her brain understood why. Actually, Dee, before I head out, we should talk. 4 words. Casual. Devastating. Okay, she heard herself say. He set his briefcase down on the console table. Expensive. Italian. Something his interior designer had insisted on. Reached inside. Pulled out a manila folder. I wanted to do this at dinner, but honestly, it's probably better to just rip the Band-Aid off. Delilah's heart was hammering now. Grayson, what? I'm filing for divorce. The room tilted. She gripped the edge of the breakfast bar, felt the cold marble against her palm. Real, solid, the only thing that felt real anymore. What? I've been unhappy for a while now. We've grown apart. You know how it is. He said it like he was explaining traffic patterns. My lawyer drew up the papers. They're fair, generous, actually. The Tahoe cabin, the Audi, a settlement that'll keep you comfortable. Comfortable, like she was a pet being rehomed. Is there someone else? He had the decency to look uncomfortable. Barely. That's not really relevant. Is there someone else? The shout surprised them both. Delilah never shouted. Delilah was calm, understanding, flexible. His jaw tightened. Yes, her name is Natasha. We met at the Founders Summit last year. It just happened. Natasha. The name landed like a slap. But there was something else. Something tugging at the edges of Delilah's memory. Natasha Pierce, she whispered. His eyes widened slightly. Confirmation. Natasha Pierce, who Delilah had met at a charity luncheon 18 months ago. Who'd mentioned she was new to San Francisco, looking to expand her social circle. Who Delilah, kind, trusting, stupid Delilah, had invited to girls' nights, introduced their friend group, welcomed into their lives. You're sleeping with my friend. She was never really your friend, Dee. She was always... He stopped, reconsidered. Look, this doesn't have to be ugly. Sign the papers, take the settlement, and we can both move on. Delilah looked at him, really looked at him, at the man she'd restructured her life around, the man she'd loved so completely she'd forgotten how to love herself. And something inside her, something she'd buried deep for 3 years, stirred awake. Where do I sign? Relief flooded his face. Really? Just like that? Just like that. She took the folder, scanned the pages with eyes that had once reviewed complex security protocols for Fortune 500 companies, saw the numbers, insultingly low compared to his net worth, saw the clauses designed to protect his assets, his reputation, his future. She picked up the Mont Blanc pen he'd given her for their first anniversary, the one she'd thought meant something, and she signed every page, every line, neat, practice signatures. Grayson actually smiled. You're being really mature about this, Dee. I appreciate that. Can I use the study? I need to gather some of my things. Of course. Take whatever's yours. She walked past him, feeling his relief like a physical presence. He thought he'd won, thought he'd gotten away clean. The study smelled like his cologne and old leather. Delilah closed the door, leaned against it, and let herself take one shaking breath. Then she moved to his desk. The USB drive was exactly where she left it 6 months ago, taped to the underside of the bottom drawer. Her fingers found it by memory. She pocketed it along with a few framed photos, camouflage, making it look sentimental, and paused at the door. Behind her, Grayson was probably already texting Natasha, already planning their future, already forgetting her. But here's what he didn't know. Delilah Crane hadn't just paused her career. She'd been preparing, watching, documenting. Every late-night work call, with Natasha's number appearing on the phone bills. Every unexplained transaction. Every contract he'd signed without reading, because he trusted his lawyers more than his wife. She'd done what she did best. Gathered data, found vulnerabilities, mapped the system. And now she was going to burn it all down. She opened the study door. Grayson was on his phone again, already moving on with his life. I'm going to stay with Harper for a few days, Delilah said quietly. Give you space to transition. That's probably best. I'll have Portia coordinate the Audi transfer. She nodded, walked to their bedroom. Not hers anymore, just a space she'd occupied, and packed a single bag. Clothes, toiletries, the USB drive burning a hole in her pocket. 20 minutes later, she was in her car, soon to be her car, driving across the Golden Gate Bridge with the city skyline shrinking in her rear-view mirror. Her phone rang. Harper. Hey, how's the most romantic day of the year treating my favorite couple? Delilah's hands tightened on the wheel. He served me divorce papers. Silence. Then, I'm going to kill him. No, I am. D. Not literally. But Harper? He has no idea what's coming. Because here's what Grayson Whitmore didn't know about his soon-to-be ex-wife. Before she became the woman who remembered his coffee preferences and organized his life, Delilah Crane had been the youngest cybersecurity consultant ever hired by Sentinel Systems. She'd built firewalls for banks, designed security protocols for government contractors, and had a gift, a genuine, terrifying gift, for finding holes in systems people thought were airtight. She'd given it up for love. But love, as it turned out, was just another system. And every system could be hacked. Harper's apartment in the Mission District smelled like jasmine tea and old books, a sharp contrast to the minimalist perfection of the Pacific Heights penthouse. Delilah sat cross-legged on the vintage couch, laptop open, her fingers flying across keys with muscle memory that hadn't faded despite 3 years of dormancy. Are you seriously hacking your ex-husband right now? Harper asked, appearing with 2 mugs of tea. Because I'm morally obligated to say that illegal, but emotionally obligated to say hell yes. I'm not hacking anything. Delilah's eyes never left the screen. I'm accessing accounts I had legitimate access to as a spouse. There's a difference. Is there, though? Legally? Gray area. Ethically? Delilah finally looked up, and Harper actually stepped back at the expression in her eyes. He destroyed 3 years of my life. I'm just collecting what I'm owed. On screen, Grayson's calendar loaded. Meetings, calls, appointments, all color-coded by Portia's efficient system. Delilah scrolled through, looking for patterns. There, Tuesday lunches at Water Bar. Every single Tuesday for the past 8 months. She cross-referenced with credit card statements. The joint account he thought she never checked. Confirmed. Tuesday lunches, billed to his company card. Always for 2. But Natasha's LinkedIn showed she taught a Tuesday afternoon class at Stanford. Had for the past year. Who's he having lunch with if Natasha's teaching? Harper asked, reading over her shoulder. Delilah clicked through to his text messages. Backed up automatically to the cloud. Password saved in his browser. Found a number saved under J. Kingston, contractor. The messages made her stomach turn. Grayson, can't wait to see you Tuesday. Wear that red dress. J. Kingston, you're insatiable. Does the wife suspect? Grayson, she doesn't suspect anything. Too busy planning dinner parties. Harper's hand landed on Delilah's shoulder, grounding. Deep breath, babe. But Delilah was already digging deeper. Found the contact card. J. Kingston was actually Juniper Whitmore, his sister. Oh my God, Harper breathed. That's his sister. Yes. Delilah's voice was ice. Who I introduced him to at my college graduation. Who cried at our wedding. Who I invited to girls' wine night every month for 3 years. The betrayal layered on betrayal. It wasn't just Natasha. It wasn't even just one affair. It was systematic. Calculated. Delilah's fingers moved faster now, accessing deeper files. Employment records. NDAs. There, a pattern of settlements. 3 former female employees, all signed to silence with generous severance packages. He's done this before, she murmured. Multiple times. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then saw the preview. I know what you're planning. We should talk. N. Natasha. Delilah stared at the message, ice flooding her veins. How could Natasha possibly? Her laptop screen flickered, then went black. What the? Harper leaned forward. A single line of text appeared in green against a black screen. You're not the only one who knows her way around a computer. Delilah. NP. Then the screen restored everything exactly as it had been. A demonstration. A warning. Delilah sat back slowly, her mind racing. Natasha wasn't just some random affair. She was tech-savvy enough to detect Delilah's digital intrusion and skilled enough to hack back within minutes. Who was Natasha Pierce, really? Harper's voice cut through her thoughts. Okay, that was creepy. Should we be worried? No. Delilah closed the laptop, pulled out the USB drive. We should be smarter, because the USB contained something Natasha couldn't hack. 3 years of physical documents. Contracts Grayson had signed without reading. Business deals with clauses he'd never noticed. Financial projections that didn't quite add up. And buried in all of it, like a time bomb waiting to explode, evidence of embezzlement, not by Grayson. He was too arrogant to steal. He earned his money, but his CFO, Dalton Reed, had been skimming for years. Small amounts, carefully hidden, expertly laundered. Delilah had noticed the discrepancies 2 years ago while organizing Grayson's tax documents. She'd mentioned it once. Grayson had dismissed her concerns with a pat on the head and a "let me handle the business stuff, okay, babe?" So she'd stopped mentioning it, started documenting it instead. Because even then, some part of her had known that love built on diminishment couldn't last, known that she needed insurance. She just hadn't expected to use it quite like this. "Okay," Harper said, settling cross-legged on the floor. "What's the play?" Delilah pulled up a secure messaging app, one she designed herself in college, before Sentinel Systems, before Grayson. "First, we level the playing field." She typed a message to Natasha's number. "Water bar. Tomorrow. Noon. Come alone." The response came within seconds. "How do I know you won't do something crazy?" Delilah almost laughed. "Because if I want to destroy you, you'd already be destroyed. I want to talk. Nothing more." A longer pause this time. Then, "Fine, but in public, and I'm recording everything. Bring your lawyer if you want. I'll bring mine." She had no lawyer. Didn't need one for what came next. Harper watched her with a mixture of awe and concern. "Dee, are you sure about this? Meeting the woman who's sleeping with your husband?" "He's not my husband anymore." Delilah's voice was steady. "I signed the papers. And yes, I'm sure. Because Natasha might be a homewrecker, but she's also my way inside his new life." "I don't follow." "Grayson thinks I'm heartbroken, devastated, out of the picture." Delilah started typing again, fingers flying. "But Natasha knows better now. She knows I'm a threat, which means she's going to tell him, which means he's going to start looking for what I might do. And while he's looking, I'll already be 3 steps ahead." Delilah hit send on an email, addressed to herself, time-stamped, containing encrypted files. Digital insurance. "He taught me something valuable in 3 years of marriage. Harper. He taught me that people see what they expect to see. He expected a devoted wife, so that's what he saw. Even when I was cataloging every crack in his empire." Outside, fog rolled through the Mission, turning streetlights into halos. Somewhere across the city, in a penthouse overlooking the bay, Grayson Whitmore was probably celebrating his freedom. Maybe with Natasha. Maybe with Juniper. Maybe already planning his next conquest. He had no idea the war had already begun. And he definitely had no idea he'd already lost. Water Bar sat on the Embarcadero like a glass monument to San Francisco wealth. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. Tables where venture capitalists made billion-dollar deals over seared ahi tuna. Delilah arrived 15 minutes early, chose a table with her back to the wall, and a clear view of the entrance. Old habits. From a life before Grayson. She dressed carefully, not the soft pastels and flowing fabrics Grayson preferred. Today she wore black, a sharp blazer, fitted pants. Her hair pulled back in a way that meant business. The woman who walked into Water Bar wasn't Grayson's accommodating wife. She was someone else entirely. Natasha arrived at 12:03, precisely 3 minutes late. A power play Delilah recognized immediately. She wore red, of course she did, her auburn hair catching afternoon light as she crossed the restaurant. Beautiful, confident, and carrying a leather portfolio that probably cost more than Delilah's first car. Their eyes met. Natasha's step faltered, just slightly. Good. Delilah. Natasha slid into the chair across from her, setting the portfolio down with deliberate care. I wasn't sure you'd actually show. Why wouldn't I? Because most women would be home crying, not scheduling lunch meetings with their husband's mistress. Ex-husband, the papers are signed. Delilah signaled the waiter. And you're not his mistress, Natasha. You're his next mistake. The waiter appeared. Delilah ordered sparkling water. Natasha ordered martini, her hand trembling just enough to betray her nerves. When they were alone again, Natasha leaned forward. So what is this? Some kind of closure conversation? Because I'm not apologizing. Grayson and I, what we have is real. Is it? Delilah tilted her head. Tell me, when did it start? The Founders Summit, like you said? Or was it before that? The summit, last February. Interesting, because I have credit card receipts showing dinners for two at Quince, our anniversary restaurant, by the way, dating back 18 months. That's 6 months before the summit. Natasha's perfect composure cracked. Just a hairline fracture. But Delilah saw it. He told me it started at the summit. He tells everyone what they want to hear. It's his superpower. Delilah accepted her water from the returning waiter. But that's not why I asked you here. Then why? Because you hacked my laptop yesterday. Which means you're not just some socialite he picked up at a conference. You have skills. Real ones. Delilah paused. Who are you really, Natasha Pierce? The question hung in the air between them, around them. The restaurant hummed with power lunches and deal-making. But at their table, time seemed to stop. Natasha's fingers traced the rim of her martini glass. When she finally spoke, her voice was different. Harder, stripped of the breathy charm she used around men. I'm someone who's tired of watching mediocre men build empires on other people's work. Specific. Grayson didn't build Whitmore Technologies alone. He had a partner. 15 years ago, when they were both broke kids with a dream and a laptop. Natasha looked up, and her eyes were chips of ice. That partner wrote the code that became their flagship product, designed the architecture, did the actual work while Grayson schmoozed investors. Delilah's pulse quickened, but she kept her face neutral. And when the company took off, Grayson bought him out, pressured him into selling his shares for pennies on the dollar, right before the IPO. Made him sign an NDA so brutal, he couldn't even tell his own family what happened. This partner have a name? Natasha smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Tobias Pierce. My father. The world tilted. Delilah sat back slowly, her mind racing through implications. You've been planning this. For 3 years. Since Dad died of a heart attack. Brought on by stress, by the way, from working 2 jobs after Grayson destroyed his career. Natasha's voice stayed level, but rage simmered underneath. I researched Grayson, learned his patterns, figured out he had a type. Young, ambitious, willing to be diminished. Exactly. Natasha took a long sip of her martini. I planned to seduce him, get access to his files, find evidence of the coercion, and sue him into oblivion. Except you were in the way. The perfect wife. The woman who made him look good at charity events and remembered his mother's birthday. I couldn't get close to him with you there, being all... She gestured vaguely. Competent and lovely. Delilah laughed, a short, sharp sound. So you befriended me first. I needed to understand you. Figure out how to separate you from him, without making it obvious. Natasha leaned forward. But then I actually got to know you, Delilah, and I realized something. What? You were too good for him. Way too good. And you were wasting your life managing his calendar when you should have been running your own company. Natasha's expression shifted. Something almost like respect. So I changed tactics. I decided to take him from you. Not to hurt you, but to free you. How noble. I know it sounds crazy. It sounds like rationalization. You wanted revenge on Grayson, so you used me as collateral damage. Delilah's voice stayed calm. But here's what you didn't know, Natasha. I wasn't wasting my life. I was preparing. Natasha frowned. Preparing for what? Delilah pulled out her phone, opened a folder, turned the screen so Natasha could see. Document after document scrolled past. Financial records, email chains, legally recorded phone calls. And at the center of it all, evidence of Dalton Reed's embezzlement, yes, but also something bigger. Evidence that Grayson had known about the embezzlement for 2 years, had participated in it, had used it to hide assets from the IRS while his public persona remained squeaky clean. Natasha's eyes widened. How did you? I'm not who he thought I was either. Delilah locked her phone. And unlike you, I didn't spend 3 years trying to destroy him from the outside. I was already inside, watching everything, documenting everything. Waiting. Waiting for what? For him to think he'd won. The waiter returned to take their order. Both women waved him away without looking. Natasha stared at Delilah like seeing her for the first time. You planned this. The divorce. All of it. Not the divorce. That was his idea. I just made sure the timing worked in my favor. Delilah traced a finger along the edge of her water glass. See, Grayson made a mistake in the prenup. A clause about asset division in cases of infidelity. His lawyers included it to protect him if I cheated. But it works both ways. And you have proof of his affairs. Multiple affairs. With timestamps. Video evidence from security cameras. He doesn't know I installed. Audio recordings from his own office. Legally obtained, by the way, in California, where only one party needs to consent to recording. Delilah smiled. I consented. Natasha sat back, something like awe crossing her face. So, what do you want from me? Information. You hacked my laptop, which means you got into his systems too. What did you find? A long pause. Then Natasha reached for her portfolio, pulled out a tablet, slid it across the table. Offshore accounts. 12 of them. Undershell company names. Total assets approximately $400 million. Money is hidden from the IRS, from investors, from everyone. She tapped the screen, including a fund labeled T. Peer settlement. Money he was supposed to pay my father, but never did. Delilah examined the screen, her mind already calculating angles. This is enough to destroy him. That's the plan. No. Delilah looked up. Your plan was revenge. Mine is bigger. How much bigger? Big enough that we both get what we want. You get justice for your father. I get everything Grayson thinks he's protecting. Delilah leaned forward, but it requires you to trust me, and to keep playing the role of devoted girlfriend for about 72 more hours. Natasha's eyes narrowed. Why? Because Grayson needs to feel safe. Victorious. He needs to think he got away clean, while I'm somewhere crying into my settlement check. Delilah's smile was razor sharp, and while he's celebrating, we're going to systematically dismantle everything he's built. You want your father's legacy acknowledged. I want my life back. Different goals, same enemy. Delilah extended her hand across the table. Partners. Natasha stared at the offered hand. Around them, the restaurant continued its oblivious dance of wealth and power. Outside, sailboats crossed the bay under clear blue sky. Finally, Natasha reached out and shook. Partners. But Delilah, if you double-cross me, you'll hack my life and destroy me digitally. I know. Delilah released her hand. Good thing I don't plan on crossing you. They spent the next hour huddled over tablets and phones, trading information like intelligence operatives. Natasha had access codes. Delilah had documentation. Together, they had a roadmap to Grayson's empire and all its cracks. When they finally left Waterbar, they left separately. Natasha first, still playing the role of mistress who might feel guilty about the confrontation. Delilah lingered, watching the bay through floor-to-ceiling windows. Her phone buzzed. Harper. Well, is she dead? Are you in jail? Delilah smiled. Neither, but Grayson's about to wish I was. The next 48 hours moved like a chess game played at lightning speed. Move 1. Natasha fed Grayson carefully crafted anxiety. Mentioned she'd had lunch with Delilah. She actually handled it really well. Babe, I think she's ready to move on. Planted seeds of confidence that his ex-wife was already yesterday's news. Move 2. Delilah filed an amendment to the divorce settlement. Nothing dramatic. Just a request for a fair division of assets acquired during the marriage. Her lawyer, finally hired, finally necessary, delivered it with apologetic efficiency. My client just wants what she's legally entitled to. Grayson's lawyer called it reasonable. Grayson, relieved to avoid a fight, agreed. He signed without reading the fine print. Mistake number 1. Move 3. Anonymous tips began hitting the SEC's fraud hotline. Nothing traceable to Delilah. Nothing concrete enough to trigger immediate investigation. Just whispers, suggestions, breadcrumbs leading toward offshore accounts and creative accounting. Move 4. Juniper Whitmore received a package at her Presidio Heights home. No return address. Inside, printed photos of her and Grayson at romantic restaurants, time-stamped and annotated. And a note. Does his wife know? Does anyone know? A friend. She called Grayson immediately, panicking. He assured her it was probably Delilah lashing out. Just ignore it. She's got nothing. But the seed of doubt was planted. Move 5. Dalton Reed, the embezzling CFO, received his own package. This one contained spreadsheets, his spreadsheets, the ones he thought he deleted, showing every dollar he'd skimmed. And another note, turn yourself in by Friday or these go to the FBI. Someone who knows. Dalton didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Delilah, meanwhile, worked from Harper's apartment like a general coordinating an invasion. Laptop open. Phone constantly buzzing. Running on coffee and precision timing. Harper watched from the doorway. You know this is insane, right? Completely insane. And possibly illegal in about 16 different ways? Only if they can prove it was me. Delilah didn't look up from her screen, which they can't. Everything I'm doing is either legally obtained information or anonymous tips that any concerned citizen can file. Delilah. Harper sat down across from her. Real talk. What happens when this is over? Grayson loses everything. I get my settlement. Natasha gets her father's recognition. Justice prevails. That's not what I'm asking. Harper's voice softened. What happens to you when the revenge is done and the dust settles? Delilah's fingers paused on the keyboard. For the first time in days, she looked uncertain. I don't know. Do you even want this? The fighting, the scheming? Or are you just doing it because he hurt you? Both. Delilah closed her laptop. He took 3 years of my life, Harper. Made me small. Made me forget who I was before him. And yes, part of this is about revenge. But part of it. She trailed off. Part of it. What? Part of it is about proving I'm still the woman who built firewalls for government contractors, who turned down job offers from Google because I wanted to build my own firm, who was somebody before I became Grayson Whitmore's wife. Her voice cracked slightly. I need to know I didn't lose her completely. Harper reached across the table, squeezed her hand. You didn't. She's right here, kicking ass and taking names. Delilah's phone buzzed. Natasha. He just got served with an SEC subpoena. They're auditing Whitmore Technologies. He's freaking out. Good. Keep him distracted. Phase 3 starts tomorrow. What's Phase 3? The gala. The San Francisco Tech Founders Gala was a social event of the season. 500 of the city's most powerful people gathered at the Legion of Honor Museum to celebrate innovation, network shamelessly, and pretend they cared about the charity cause du jour. Grayson Whitmore was scheduled to give a keynote speech. He'd been preparing for weeks. This was his moment. Freshly single, SEC audit notwithstanding, ready to announce Whitmore Technology's newest product launch. What he didn't know was that Delilah had bought a ticket, not under her name. Of course, under an LLC she'd formed 2 years ago, one of many financial maneuvers she'd made while he was busy dismissing her as just his wife. She arrived in emerald green, a color she'd always loved, but Grayson said wash her out. Her hair fell in waves she'd never worn when he preferred it sleek. She looked like herself. Finally, completely herself. Natasha spotted her first. Their eyes met across the room. A tiny nod. The plan was in motion. Grayson stood near the bar, surrounded by admirers, holding court about his company's bright future. He looked confident, happy, untouchable. The lights dimmed for his keynote. He took the stage to applause, launching into his prepared remarks about innovation and disruption and the future of technology. And then, halfway through, the screen behind him flickered. His speech disappeared. New images loaded. Bank statements. Offshore account numbers. Email chains discussing hidden assets. And in the center of it all, a video. Security footage from his own office, showing him and Dalton Reed discussing how to bury the embezzlement evidence. The room went silent. Grayson turned, saw the screens, went white. What? Turn that off. Turn it off. But the AV system didn't respond. Because 3 hours earlier, Natasha had accessed the venue's network and locked out manual controls. The presentation continued. More footage. Grayson with Juniper at romantic restaurants. Grayson with Natasha. Grayson with 2 other women nobody in the room recognized. Previous affairs, previous betrayals. And then the final slide. Some men build empires. Others steal them. Grayson Whitmore did both. Here's the proof. Followed by a QR code linking to a secure website where every document, every file, every piece of evidence was available for download. The room erupted. Voices rising. Phones appearing. People scrambling to scan the QR code. Grayson stood frozen on stage, his carefully constructed image shattering in real time. And in the back of the room, Delilah watched. She felt no joy, no triumph, just a strange, hollow relief. This was it, the moment she'd been building toward. But as she watched Grayson's world collapse, she realized Harper was right. Revenge didn't feel like victory. It felt like ash. She turned to leave and walked directly into someone. "Excuse me," she murmured. "Delilah Crane?" She looked up. A woman in her 60s, silver hair, sharp eyes, wearing a name tag that read, Imogen Sterling, Sterling Tech Ventures. "I'm sorry, do I know you?" "No, but I know your work." Imogen smiled. "I've been trying to find you for 2 years, ever since you disappeared from the cybersecurity world. I had a job offer for you then. Still do if you're interested." Delilah blinked. I don't understand." "You built something beautiful before you married that idiot." Imogen gestured toward the stage, where security was now escorting Grayson out. "I'm guessing tonight's little presentation was your work." "I couldn't possibly comment." "Smart answer." Imogen handed her a business card. "When you're done cleaning up this mess, call me. I need someone who understands both tech and strategy. Someone who can think 3 steps ahead. Someone exactly like you." She walked away, leaving Delilah standing in the chaos, holding a business card that felt like a life raft. Her phone buzzed. "Natasha, did we just do that?" "We did. I don't feel as good as I thought I would." "Me neither. Drinks? I think we need to talk." They met at a dive bar in the Castro, nowhere Grayson's crowd would ever set foot. Delilah arrived first, ordered whiskey, and was halfway through it when Natasha slid into the booth across from her. "So," Natasha said, "we destroyed him. We expose him. The SEC will destroy him." Semantics. Natasha ordered her own drink. "Can I ask you something?" "Sure. When did you know? About the embezzlement, the affairs, all of it?" Delilah traced the rim of her glass. "You want the truth?" "Please." "I knew within 6 months of marrying him that something was wrong. Little things. Discrepancies in accounts. Conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. The way he dismissed my questions about business, as if I was too simple to understand." She took a sip. "I told myself I was being paranoid. That marriage meant trust. That love meant giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I'm a cybersecurity expert. My whole career was built on trusting systems, not people. On verify instead of assuming." Delilah looked up. "So I started documenting, just in case, just to protect myself if things went bad." "When did you know about me?" "The first time he mentioned you, actually. He was too casual about it. Too careful. That's when I knew you were either a target or a threat." Delilah paused. "I'm sorry about your father." Natasha's eyes glistened. "He died thinking he was a failure. That Grayson had beaten him fair and square. He wasn't a failure. Grayson stole from him. There's a difference." "I know that now." Natasha wiped her eyes. But I spent so long focused on revenge that I forgot my dad wouldn't have wanted this. He would have wanted me to build something better, not tear Grayson down. Maybe you can do both. How? Delilah pulled out the USB drive, the one from Grayson's study. This contains your father's original code, the architecture he built. Grayson never deleted it, just buried it. With this, you could prove authorship, sue for intellectual property theft, get your father's name on the patents where it belongs. Natasha stared at the drive. You're giving this to me? I'm giving you a choice. You can use it for a lawsuit, or... Delilah leaned forward. Or you can use it to build what your father would have built if Grayson hadn't stolen it from him. I'm not a coder, but I am, and I'm about to be unemployed with a very generous divorce settlement. Delilah smiled. What do you say, Natasha? Want to build something that actually matters? Before Natasha could answer, Delilah's phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, then recognized the area code. Bakersfield, her hometown. She answered. Hello, is this Delilah Crane? A woman's voice, professional. Yes. This is Patricia Vance from Crane and Associates law firm. I'm calling about your late mother's estate. Delilah's world stopped. My mother's what? Your mother passed 3 months ago, Miss Crane. I've been trying to reach you, but your contact information was outdated. That's impossible. My mother died 15 years ago. Car accident. A pause. I'm afraid that's not accurate. Your mother has been alive and living in Bakersfield this entire time. And according to her will, she left you something. A letter and a considerable inheritance. Delilah couldn't breathe. I don't understand. Perhaps you should come to our office. There's quite a bit to discuss, including why she faked her death and what it has to do with the Whitmore family. The line went dead. Delilah sat frozen, phone still pressed her ear. Natasha's voice seemed to come from very far away. Delilah, what's wrong? My mother, she's been alive this whole time. Delilah looked up, and her expression must have been terrifying because Natasha actually flinched. And apparently, she had a connection to Grayson's family. What kind of connection? But Delilah was already pulling up her laptop, fingers flying across keys, accessing records she'd never thought to check. Birth certificates, marriage licenses, corporate documents from 30 years ago. And there it was. Eleanor Crane, her mother, had been business partners with Grayson's father, Harrison Whitmore, in the early days of what would become Whitmore Technologies, until Harrison forced her out, stole her shares, made her sign an NDA that prevented her from ever working in tech again. The exact same thing Grayson had done to Tobias Pierce. History repeating itself. Delilah's hands were shaking now. My marriage, it wasn't random. What do you mean? I mean, Delilah pulled up a photo from her cloud storage. Her and Grayson, early days, meeting at a tech conference in San Jose. I thought it was chance. We met, fell in love, got married. But what if my mother arranged it? What if she knew who Grayson was, and she set me up to... She couldn't finish the sentence. Because if her mother had been alive this whole time, if she'd known about the Whitmore connection, if she'd somehow orchestrated Delilah meeting Grayson, then everything, the marriage, the betrayal, the revenge, had been part of a plan Delilah didn't even know she was following. I need to go to Bakersfield, she whispered. I'm coming with you, Natasha said immediately. Why? Because this stopped being about Grayson the moment they mentioned your mother. And because Natasha hesitated. Because I think we're friends now. Actual friends. And friends don't let friends face family mysteries alone. Delilah looked at her, at this woman who'd been her enemy, then her ally, and was now somehow the person she trusted most in the world. Okay, she said. We leave tomorrow. The drive to Bakersfield took 4 hours. 4 hours of silence and speculation, of Delilah's mind spinning through possibilities, trying to reconcile the mother she'd mourned with a woman who'd apparently faked her own death. The law office was in a strip mall between a dry cleaner and a taco shop. Not exactly where Delilah expected to find answers to life-altering questions. Patricia Vance was waiting. 60s, Gray suit, kind eyes that had seen too much. Ms. Crane, thank you for coming so quickly. She gestured to a conference room. This is complicated. Try me. Patricia opened a file. Your mother contacted me 6 months before her death. She'd been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. She knew she didn't have long, and she wanted to set things right. Set what right? Everything. Patricia slid a thick envelope across the table. This letter explains it all. But the short version is, your mother never wanted to fake her death. Harrison Whitmore forced her to. Delilah's blood ran cold. How? He threatened you. You were 7 years old. He said if Eleanor didn't disappear, sign away all rights to the company, and never contact you again, he'd make sure you had an accident. Those were his exact words. Natasha made a sound of disgust. Patricia continued. Eleanor loved you more than anything. So she staged a car accident, moved to Nevada under an assumed name, and spent the next 15 years making sure you were safe from a distance. She watched you graduate college. Get your first job. Meet, she paused. Meet Grayson Whitmore. She knew, Delilah whispered. She knew I was marrying Harrison's son. She didn't orchestrate it, if that's what you're thinking. But yes, she knew, and it terrified her. She tried to warn you, sent anonymous emails to your work account suggesting you look deeper into the Whitmore family history. But I ignored them. I thought they were spam. Delilah felt sick. Patricia opened the envelope. Inside was a letter, handwritten, addressed to Delilah, her mother's handwriting. With shaking hands, Delilah began to read. My dearest Delilah, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I'm so sorry. Sorry I couldn't be there for your childhood. Sorry I let you think I was dead. Sorry I was too weak to stand up to Harrison Whitmore all those years ago. But I want you to know, I watched you grow into an incredible woman. Smart, strong, capable, everything I hoped you'd be. When I heard you'd married Grayson, my heart broke. I knew what his family was capable of. I tried to warn you, but you didn't know it was me. How could you? By the time I got sick, I'd accepted that some wrongs can't be righted. But then I saw the news, SEC investigation, corporate fraud, your divorce. And I realized you figured it out. You'd done what I couldn't. You'd fought back. I'm leaving you everything I have. It's not much, just $2 million and a small house in Carmel. But more importantly, I'm leaving you the truth. Harrison Whitmore stole my work, just like Grayson stole from Tobias Pierce, just like he tried to steal your life. But you're stronger than me, Delilah. You didn't run. You burned his empire down. I'm so proud of you. Use the money to build something beautiful, something that matters. And please forgive me for all the years I couldn't be your mother. All my love, Eleanor. Delilah set the letter down with shaking hands. Tears streamed down her face. Not just for her mother, but for all the years lost, all the pain that could have been avoided if one man hadn't been so cruel. Natasha's hand found hers across the table. Squeezed tight, Patricia cleared her throat gently. There's one more thing. Your mother left instructions. She wanted you to know that Harrison Whitmore is still alive. He's in a memory care facility in Palo Alto. Dementia. He doesn't remember what he did. Good, Delilah said, her voice hard. Let him forget. I'll remember for both of us. She stood, gathering the letter and documents. Natasha rose with her. What now? Natasha asked as they walked to the car. Delilah looked out at the Bakersfield sky. Clear, endless, full of possibility. Now, we build something my mother would be proud of. Something your father would have wanted. Something that matters more than revenge. What kind of something? Delilah smiled, a real smile, the first in weeks. A tech company, built by people who actually create things instead of stealing them. Built on transparency and actual innovation. Built to prove that people like our parents didn't lose. They just played a longer game than the Whitmores ever understood. Natasha grinned. I like it. What do we call it? Crane Pierce Technologies. Delilah opened the car door. Has a nice ring to it, don't you think? Perfect. They drove back to San Francisco in comfortable silence, both women processing everything that had happened. The betrayal, the revenge, the revelations. Delilah's phone buzzed. A news alert. Grayson Whitmore arrested on fraud charges. Whitmore Technologies stock plummets. She showed it to Natasha. They both nodded, satisfied, and then Delilah deleted the alert. Because Grayson Whitmore wasn't the story anymore. He'd never been the story. The story was about two women who refused to let powerful men define them, who turned pain into purpose, who built something better from the ashes of betrayal. And that story was just beginning. So there you have it. Delilah didn't just get revenge, she got free. And in the process, she found something worth more than destroying Grayson. She found herself again. Question for you. If you were in Delilah's shoes, could you forgive your mother for faking her death? Or would that betrayal be too much? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm genuinely curious how people feel about this. And if this story hit you in the feels, do me a favor. Share it with someone who needs to hear that it's possible to rebuild after betrayal. Hit that like button. Subscribe for more stories that'll make you feel all the things. And stick around, because we got more emotional roller coasters coming your way. Remember, revenge might be sweet, but building something better? That's the real victory. See you in the next one.